So in the previous video, we talked about the contents of this tunnel, everything that branches away from it, and we sort of mentioned at the beginning that, well, it's probably better that you check over here first, rather than checking that tunnel at all. Right? Typically, after I check over here, I actually head in this direction, and I'm obviously keeping my eyes moving. Some of the time, right? Sometimes I don't even care. But I kind of look around to see if there's any hiders, right? But really, there's one other spot on the right side of the map that we have to check, which is this tunnel right here. And I didn't really mention it at the beginning. Right? This is the tunnel, by the way. But it actually branches into this region right here, which is from the second video we talked about on the museum for hunting on the museum. Right? We talked about this tunnel right here. Right? But there's another tunnel that branches off from it, which is this one, right? Which is pretty narrow. Right? About as narrow as the previous video's tunnel. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about in this video, which is this tunnel. As you can see, block piles are really small, so it's really easy to look at. Right? But that's really what we're focused on in this video. Right? Now, typically the way that I approach the tunnel is I start actually from this position. I start from over here. Right? Typically, once I'm done finishing checking those, I head in this direction, and I head into this tunnel. And typically, like, you don't want to miss the... Like, typically, if you're chasing after pro hiders, obviously this is non-ideal conditions, but if you're chasing after pro hiders, you don't want to make this mistake. Sometimes they'll shoot you as you're coming up. You got to be careful about how you approach it. Right? But again, that's not what we're talking about in this video. Right? So really the way you do it, you start from the staircase. Sometimes you can literally jump onto the staircase first and then jump onto this block. Of course, be careful from here as you go after them. Right? That's the way that you gotta approach it. You basically gotta be careful. Try not to get into the water. You do, for ideal conditions, it doesn't really matter, but I try to never touch it. So like just like that. So now let's talk about the contents of the tunnel. Starting with the anvils. We have 4 anvils. Forms an L shape. In this case, it's a sideways L. Basically, it's 4 anvils. Typically, the common spot is to find 5 anvils like that. Should never see an anvil squared off like this or like this. Right? It should never happen. Too many anvils in a row, right? 4 diagonal anvils in a row. It's fake. That's basically it for the anvils. Basically, it's just 4 of them. As for the bookshelves, basically a square of bookshelves. Again, squares are fake. Square of bookshelves is fake. Or if you see a bookshelf that basically connects them all together, that would be fake as well. As for the melon, it's 1 melon, so it's pretty easy. Diagonal melons, or 2 melons in a row. That's it. As for the note blocks and the flower pots, right? Keep in mind, there are 4 flower pots. So really, there are a few spots you might see flower pots at. Like this is probably the most common ones to find a flower pot here. Right? Or if you find a flower pot here. And that's really the spots you'll typically see for flower pots. You typically don't see one here. So I don't know why I'm mentioning it. Okay. As for note blocks, right, you can basically replace all those spots I just mentioned with note blocks. Like for instance, right here, or right here. Basically, it's just those 2 spots that you'll typically find a hider. The last block pile is this melon pile. What was that? I have no idea how that happened. Okay, I don't know what that was. Okay, so we have a square of melons. Again, squares are fake, right? So that's fake melon. Or if you see it 3-dimensionalized, like this, that's fake. As you can see, overall, it's like it's the width of this block pile is 1. If you all of a sudden see it 3D like this, that's fake. As you can see, pretty easy, 3 melons. That's basically it for this tunnel. But another thing I should mention is that you can find flower pots anywhere in this tunnel. Not just right here, but you'll sometimes even find them right here. Sometimes you'll find them right here. On the edge right here. And so, really, the only flower pots that are real in this room are the 4 with the no blocks, right? These 4 flower pots are the only real flower pots in this room, so that's all you have to know. That's basically it for this tunnel. Basically, just to recap, I guess I should go over this furnace tab because it's like right at the entrance to the tunnel. Notice how it's really just a staircase of furnaces, right? So I guess the most common spot is to see a furnace on top of it like this. Or if you see the furnaces squared off like this. Or if you see it like right here. Just like that. That's basically it for the furnaces. Basically, just to recap, right, the way you want to approach it, either you could use Leaper Hunter to leap onto it. Of course, again, be careful if you're chasing after a pro hider. Or you could do this. Either way works. Just like that, right? Of course, that's something for another video, but really, that's all it is, right? You just gotta know the few spots of this room. Right? Typically, I don't approach from this side, right? I typically just go this way because I want to check hider spawn first. Again, depending on the game conditions, I might end up on this side after I'm chasing a hider for a really long time, and then eventually I'll just head in here and check this way instead. But that's pretty much it for this video.